Bolivia's emergency, a nation at the boiling point. The moment. The cards came in blank. All 10 positions of the Celtic cross blank, like the deck was looking at the situation and simply shaking its head. In a decade of reading that's happened maybe twice. It doesn't mean nothing is there. It means whatever is there is still moving too fast to catch. The astrology agrees. When Bolivia's currency went into freefall on July 1, 2026, and President Rodrigo Paz declared a state of emergency, the sky had been loading this particular gun for at least 6 months. The event chart, a map of where every planet sat at the exact moment the crisis broke open, has the sun in Cancer, the sign that rules homeland security, food supply, fuel, and the basic stuff that keeps a population alive. That sun sits opposite Bolivia's natal Neptune, the planet that governs oil and gas, ideology, and critically, dissolution and delusion. In plain terms, the moment this crisis hit, it exposed a gap between what Bolivia told itself about its energy independence and what was actually left in the tank. Meanwhile, the moon in Capricorn, the sign of the state apparatus, borders, austerity, and hard limits, tells us the public mood isn't just angry, it's cold. The people blocking roads aren't operating on pure emotion, they're in survival mode, calculating, strategic. Capricorn doesn't shout. It digs in. The wider period is charged but not at peak intensity. The cyclic index, a measure of how much planetary tension is compressing the global atmosphere at any given time, sits at 819.7 out of a possible 1800, rising toward dispersal. Translation: this is a serious crisis, but the heavens suggest it's a building phase, not the climax. There's room for it to get worse. There's also room for it to fragment into a series of smaller, messier problems rather than resolve into one clean reckoning. The heavy signatures all point the same direction. In January and February 2026, both Saturn and Neptune entered Aries, Saturn representing the state apparatus, austerity, borders, and hardship, Neptune representing oil, gas, propaganda, and dissolution. When two planets this heavy change signs within weeks of each other, it marks a shift in the collective weather that lasts years. Aries is the sign of ignition, conflict, and new beginnings. So the global backdrop is one of states clamping down with Saturn in Aries, while energy supplies and ideological certainties dissolve with Neptune in Aries. Bolivia is not an anomaly, it's an early case study. Then, on February 20th, those two planets conjoined, Saturn and Neptune sitting in the exact same degree of Aries. This is the signature of a state merging its austerity program with its energy policy, fusing contraction with dissolution. Fuel subsidy cuts are this aspect written in policy. The government tightening its belt at exactly the moment the gas runs thin. That conjunction set the program. Everything since has been the program playing out. 2 days before that, on February 17th, an annular solar eclipse at 28 degrees 50 minutes Aquarius swept across the sky. Eclipses function as reset points. They interrupt the normal flow and force a new chapter. This one fell close to Bolivia's natal Pluto, the planet that rules deep finance, power blocks, and the death and rebuilding of institutions. The eclipse signaled that whatever Bolivia's power structures were before February, they were being rewritten from underneath. A total lunar eclipse followed on March 3rd at 12 degrees 52 minutes Virgo, the sign of daily practicalities, food, roads, and the working rhythm of ordinary life. That eclipse pressed directly on the question of how people eat, how they get to work, how the basic machinery of the country functions. The road blockades and food shortages we're seeing now were already written into March's sky. What it touches. Bolivia was born as a republic on August 6, 1825, which gives it a natal sun at roughly 13 to 14 degrees Leo, the sign of pride, sovereignty, and dramatic national identity. Leo sun countries don't take humiliation lightly. They don't quietly accept a currency collapse. They burn. Right now, transiting Saturn, the planet of state authority, austerity, and contraction, is making a trine, a flowing supportive aspect to Bolivia's natal sun. Here's the uncomfortable truth about that aspect. It means the austerity measures, however brutal they feel, are structurally aligned with what the nation's identity requires. Saturn trine Sun is the cosmos saying this hardship is not random punishment, it's the medicine the country's own chart has been asking for. The fuel subsidy cuts, the currency correction, the contraction of state spending, they're the right prescription. But Saturn is still Saturn. The right medicine can still feel like it's killing you. The more alarming transit is Neptune, the planet of oil, gas, and dissolution, sitting almost exactly on top of Bolivia's natal Pluto, the planet that rules deep power, mining wealth, and institutional transformation. When Neptune touches Pluto in a nation's chart, the thing that dissolves is the thing the nation's deep wealth was built on. For Bolivia, that's gas exports, mining revenue, and the resource-backed economic model that has sustained the state since the early 2000s. The subsidy cuts aren't just a policy choice, they're the surface symptom of something structural eroding underneath. The nation's relationship to its own underground wealth is changing, and not by choice. At the same time, Uranus, the planet of sudden shocks, strikes, and reversals, is making a sextile, a gentle, activating aspect to Bolivia's natal Pluto. This means the shocks hitting the country aren't just disruptive, they're catalytic. Uranus sextile Pluto is reform energy, the kind that tears down the old structure because the old structure was already failing. The road blockades, the currency plunge, the spontaneous eruptions of public anger. These aren't obstacles to the transformation. They are the transformation happening in real time on the streets. Then there's Rodrigo Paz. Born September 22, 1967, Paz took office carrying a chart that interacts with Bolivia's in ways that are both deeply sympathetic and structurally tense. The most telling connection is Bolivia's Neptune trine Paz moon, the nation's oil and gas reality flowing in harmony with the president's emotional instincts. Paz doesn't just understand Bolivia's energy crisis intellectually, he feels it in his gut. This is a leader who genuinely grasps what the fuel shortages mean for ordinary people. But Bolivia's Neptune also squares Paz's Saturn, the nation's dissolving energy situation directly challenging his authority and his ability to hold the structure together. The fuel subsidy issue is, in astrological terms, the exact point where Bolivia's needs and Paz's power collide. The synastry also shows Bolivia's moon conjunct Paz's moon. Their emotional rhythms are nearly identical. When the Bolivian people feel desperation, Paz feels it too. That's either a gift or a trap, depending on whether he can hold the line while feeling the pressure. Right now, the transits suggest he can't do both. On July 1st, the transiting sun sat in an exact square, a 90-degree angle of friction and crisis, to Paz's natal Saturn, the planet that represents his own authority, his structural command, his hold on the apparatus of state. The state of emergency is this aspect. The moment the crisis peaked, the sky put a direct challenge to Paz's ability to govern. He declared emergency powers because his normal authority was being overwhelmed, and the astrology says this tension on his Saturn will persist through the summer. Bolivia's Jupiter, the planet that rules banking, finance, and expansion, squares Paz's Neptune, the planet of illusions and idealism. This is the signature of a leader who may have overpromised on what the financial system could deliver, or who genuinely believed the economic numbers were better than they were. The gap between campaign optimism and governing reality is written right here. How it rolls forward. The event chart has Mars, the planet of unrest, strikes, and conflict, making an exact trine to the ascendant, the point that represents the public face of the moment. This means the anger on the streets isn't a side effect, it's the defining feature. Mars in Gemini, the sign of roads, transport, and communication, trining the ascendant in Libra, the sign of negotiation and public relations, says the blockades are the message. The public is using the country's transport network as its communication channel. Until the roads open, the conversation stays blocked. But the coming weeks carry signatures that could shift this from confrontation to something more volatile, or more structural. On July 18th, Uranus trines Pluto, sudden reform energy harmonizing with deep institutional transformation. This could manifest as a breakthrough, a policy shift, a negotiated settlement, a new economic framework that actually addresses the structural problem rather than papering over it. Or it could manifest as another shock, a sudden devaluation, a government reshuffle, a regional escalation. Uranus doesn't tell you which way it'll break, it just says expect the unexpected, and expect it fast. 2 days later, on July 20th, two major aspects hit simultaneously. Jupiter, ruling banking, finance, and the courts, opposes Pluto, representing deep power, plutocracy, and institutional transformation, while also trining Neptune, representing oil, gas, and idealism. This is a tug-of-war between the financial system and entrenched power, paired with a wave of economic idealism, or a rescue package. The Jupiter-Pluto opposition is the hard one. It pits the institutions that control money against the power structures that have been running the country's resource wealth. Something has to give. The Jupiter-Neptune trine suggests that whatever replaces the old system will be sold to the public as a vision, a dream, a new economic story. Whether that story holds is another question. The real turning point comes on August 12th, when a total solar eclipse at 20 degrees 02 minutes Leo sweeps across the sky. This is the one to watch. Eclipse reset whatever they touch, and this one falls in Leo, Bolivia's own sign, the sign of its national identity. At 20 degrees Leo, it's close enough to Bolivia's natal sun to land as a direct hit. This eclipse says whatever Bolivia is on August 12th, it won't be the same Bolivia on August 13th. The crisis that began in July reaches its transformative moment here. A new chapter in the nation's story starts. Not necessarily a better one, but a structurally different one. The old economic model, the old relationship between state and citizen, the old bargain around fuel and subsidies. The eclipse doesn't promise these end, it promises they're renegotiated. A partial lunar eclipse follows on August 28th at 4 degrees 51 minutes Pisces, the sign of dissolution, the sea, and collective emotion. This one carries the energy of an emotional reckoning. If the solar eclipse in Leo is the structural reset, the lunar eclipse in Pisces is the moment the public processes what it's lost. Grief, anger, and a collective sense that this is what it's come to. Pisces doesn't fight, it mourns, and then it dissolves what no longer works. Through the autumn, Neptune continues its sextile to Pluto, a long, slow aspect that runs through September and beyond. This is the background hum, the energy system and the power system learning to work together in a new way. It's not dramatic, it's not a headline, but it's the aspect that says eventually, the structural adjustment will settle. The question is how much disruption happens first. The cyclic index rising toward dispersal through this period suggests the crisis won't resolve in a single dramatic event, it will scatter. The state of emergency may lift, but the underlying tensions, currency weakness, fuel supply, and public trust will fragment into separate ongoing problems that the government has to manage on multiple fronts simultaneously. There is no single fix, there is no return to the before times. For Paz, the Jupiter square to his natal Lilith, the point of suppressed power and shadow material, suggests that the financial crisis will surface something he'd rather keep hidden, a deal, a promise, a faction within his own coalition. The Chiron conjunction to his Lilith in the transit list confirms it. This is a wounding that hits the shadow. Whatever he's been carrying quietly will be forced into the open. Watch for leaks, factional splits, or a public admission that the economic picture was worse than campaign rhetoric suggested. Summary: Bolivia's crisis is a structural reckoning dressed up as an emergency, the moment when a nation's resource-based economic model, eroded by years of declining gas revenues and mounting debt, finally forced its hand under a new president whose own chart is wired to feel the pain but struggle to hold the line. There are several key moments to watch. First, watch the August 12th total solar eclipse at 20 degrees Leo. It lands near Bolivia's natal sun and signals a structural reset of the nation's identity and economic model, not just a policy adjustment. Next, watch the Jupiter-Pluto opposition on July 20th. It pits Bolivia's financial institutions against its entrenched power structures. Whatever gives way here sets the terms for the next phase. Also, watch Neptune's ongoing conjunction to Bolivia's natal Pluto. The slow dissolution of the country's resource wealth foundation continues regardless of who's in power. This is the tectonic plate underneath everything. Keep an eye on Paz's natal Saturn under transit pressure. The square from the transiting sun is exact now, but the broader tension on his authority persists. If he loses internal coalition support before the August eclipse, the crisis escalates. Watch the road blockades as Mars trines the ascendant. The blockades are the message, not just the method. Until transport networks reopen, no negotiation holds. And finally, watch for factional leaks or revelations as Jupiter squares Paz's Lilith. Something the president has been carrying quietly is likely to surface as the financial pressure intensifies. The cards were blank because the story is still being written. The astrology says it won't be finished by August, but by the time the Leo eclipse passes, Bolivia will know what shape the new chapter takes. Recent history and where this is heading. Bolivia's reckoning is not an isolated storm, but a local expression of a much larger weather system. The rare conjunction of Saturn and Neptune at 0 degrees Aries, a roughly 36-year cycle symbolizing the dissolution and renewal of foundational structures, has been coloring events far beyond La Paz. Wherever old systems no longer hold, this alignment resonates. Saturn's quiet sextile to Pluto deepens the mood, pointing toward calculated power restructuring rather than explosive revolt. What lies ahead may sharpen the picture. The July 20th opposition of Jupiter and Pluto, a cycle of concentrated wealth and power under pressure, tends to pit financial systems against entrenched resource interests, precisely Bolivia's fault line. Then the August 12th total solar eclipse at 20 degrees Leo, falling directly on Bolivia's natal sun, suggests a genuine reset of national identity and economic direction rather than a policy adjustment. The same astrological weather linking Bolivia's crisis to institutional shakeups elsewhere will likely persist, binding seemingly unrelated stories to the same slow-moving, largely unseen currents. Before you go, if this has landed for you, whether you're watching from a distance or sitting in the middle of it, the reading above maps the shape of the crisis, but it can't tell you what to do with your own life inside that shape. 2 things from Occultique might help. First, the annual transit forecast tracks the major planetary movements across your own chart for the year ahead, month by month. Key dates, the big shifts. It gives you your own timeline to weigh against the headlines, which matters when you're trying to decide whether to hold tight or make a move. Second, and this one I'd reach for if the situation feels muddy and you can't see the edges, a tarot standard reading with the problem/solution spread. 5 cards, what the problem is, what caused it, what help is available, and what you can actually do about it. It won't fix a currency collapse, but it'll help you see your own situation clearly when everything's moving too fast to read. Both are available at Occultique whenever you're ready. The sky's not going anywhere. Seeker, this is a 4-direction spread, 5 cards from the Smith-Waite deck, drawn on Thursday the 2nd of July, 2026, while the moon is full in Aquarius and Bolivia's emergency is lit up like a stage. This is a daily snapshot, not a verdict. I want to see who steers, what burns, and what must be left behind before the August Leo eclipse arrives. East, beginnings, the Chariot. Here in the East we meet the Chariot. Cancer's card, homeland, food, fuel, and the question of who steers. On the 1st of July, the Sun in Cancer opposed Bolivia's natal Neptune, exposing the gap between fuel promises and empty tanks, and President Rodrigo Paz grabbed the reins. Beside the Queen of Wands, the reading asks whether this is discipline or pride. South, action, Queen of Wands. In the South, the Queen of Wands sits in the Aries-Taurus zone, where Saturn and Neptune are dissolving Bolivia's fuel bargain. Her south position says the road blockades, Mars in Gemini speaking through the transport network, are the real engine, not background noise. Between the Chariot and the 8 of Cups, will meets grief. West, reflection, 8 of Cups. Moving to the west, the 8 of Cups carries Saturn in Pisces, the heavy decision to walk away from something already hollow. Bolivia's gas export dream is the cup left behind. By August's Pisces lunar eclipse, the public will mourn it. Between the Queen of Wands and the 7 of Pentacles, grief clears ground for a new harvest. North, wisdom, 7 of Pentacles. In the north, the 7 of Pentacles is Saturn in Taurus, the pause to inspect the crop before deciding the next season. The 20th of July's Jupiter-Pluto opposition asks Bolivia the same question: keep propping the old harvest, or let the field rest. With the 6 of Pentacles at the center, there must be something left to divide. Center, self/situation, 6 of Pentacles. At the center, the 6 of Pentacles is Moon in Taurus, the scales of who gives, who receives, and who owes. The Boliviano collapse puts those scales under public glare, and with Venus void, of course, in Leo until the 9th of July, deals drift. The Chariot opposite says whoever controls the purse controls the narrative. Summary. For you, Seeker, the spread reads like one question repeated 5 ways. Bolivia has outrun its old economic story, and the next chapter depends on whether its leaders can steer through pride. Share what's left honestly, and let the dead model go before the August eclipse forces the issue. Walk wisely, Seeker.